the Missouri suit will have standing still because Missouri's Attorney General and Republican candidate for Senate, Attorney General Eric Schmitt, and 5 other states had filed suit challenging the administration's student loan cancellation program. He joins us now via Skype. Sir, first off, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And this was my big question when I was reading this NPR piece, because this does not affect your suit, as I understand it, because they can try to quietly change it, but this is still going forward, correct?
Yeah, and I think there have been discussions about this potential lawsuit for weeks. I mean, I've been openly saying, if we've got an avenue to sue, we're going to sue, and it comes down to a question of standing. And so you've got, these states, Missouri's included. We're uniquely positioned because there's an agency in Missouri, MOHELA, that's a loan servicing organization. And so it'll certainly be impacted by this as relates to borrowers and who they're able to work with and what loans are forgiven, et cetera. And so ultimately now we've got a straight line in court to take this unconstitutional lawful action on. I mean, this is really, if you take away just the ridiculousness of the truck driver having to pay for the theater degree of the college professor, right? Like, just take that out of it, which is enough of a reason not to do this and why it's really unfair, and Americans recognize it. There's no legal basis at all for the president of the United States, with a stroke of his pen, to wipe out between $500 billion to $1 trillion worth of debt. I mean, Congress never voted on that. And if you're trying to reach back to this, HEROES Act legislation from 22 years ago that had to do with 9/11, I mean, it's a total joke. There's no basis for this at all. And so we're going to press forward and hopefully get this overturned, this executive order. But you nailed it. This is just electioneering, election year politics by Joe Biden to try to gain favor. And it's desperate. I mean, he's doing everything he can to distance himself from in high inflation numbers, over 13% since he's taken office, ground beef up 36%.
Yeah.
Every time people go to the grocery store, you've got a family, I've got a family, there's sticker shock. It's nuts. And so it's not going away. Now you've got rising interest rates. It's more expensive for people to add on to their home or do anything with their home or buy a home. The economy's in free fall and Joe Biden's to blame. And so this is meant to be a distraction, but we're not going to let him get away with it.
And we're talking with Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt and Republican candidate for Senate. This whole thing, the more I read it, it seemed like a bait and switch. I can't believe that Democrat voters, people who maybe don't understand how this is actually subsidized and who thought it sounded like a great idea, it seems that they should be angrier about this. I mean, apparently some, what they call borrowers, they could actually end up getting a heck of a lot less relief than they thought they were going to when this was first announced. So they quietly changed this so they don't have to answer to not actually fulfilling this promise.
Well, they're back. See, this is what happens when you have a president leading an administrative state that's just sort of arbitrary, right? We have, on a number of lawsuits we've talked about on your show before, particularly on some of the border-related lawsuits, what they try to do is, once we filed the lawsuit and sort of said, look, you don't have any basis for this and you didn't follow the right procedures, they try to back into it and say, oh, no, well, this is actually what we meant to do, and kind of shoehorn it in. It doesn't work. It's haphazard. It's obviously a phony attempt to do this to try to placate certain voters. But people are smart. They recognize for what this is. And by the way, this will only add to the inflation crisis. I mean, you can't simply pump, trillions and trillions of dollars in the economy like they've done right now. And that's why you're seeing it. And then you cut off energy supply. You declare a war on American energy. Inflation's not some act of God like a tornado here in the Midwest, right? There's a formula for it. It turns out when you spend trillions and trillions of dollars and you choke off domestic energy supply, you see higher inflation. And winter is coming, Dana, because utility bills, as people start turning on that heater here very soon, as the weather starts to turn, certainly here in Missouri, they're going to be astronomical. And people are going to get their 401k statements in a couple of weeks. I think people are going to really recognize what a disaster this presidency's been.
Yeah, talking with Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt. Yeah, my mother was saying that it was in the low 50s one morning, and I thought, I'd be putting a fire in my fireplace already. I'd be turning up the gas. There's no way. That is too cold for me. And she was saying, it was lovely. I know y'all are used to that more so. I've acclimated to Texas heat at this point.
Yeah, a little different climate. But the Cardinals, they're in the playoffs this weekend.
Red October.
the weather's going to turn, but it'll be red October. That's
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you're doing, not just on on behalf of everybody, but particularly Missourians, of which all our family is still there. So thank you very much for this, because I know a lot of working people are grateful that someone at least has their back, even if this administration does it. Eric Schmitt, Attorney General of Missouri and Republican nominee, Republican Senate candidate. So, yeah, and by the way, you're doing really good in the polls too, so congrats on that.
Thanks, Dana. We'll keep plugging away. Appreciate it.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.